is going through air and space. Cassie, give me another one. Okay, so like over an open burner and the heat rising out of it. Okay. Give me another type of transfer. Elijah.
Convection.
Convection. What is convection?
The movement of the molecule in circular motion through a fluid.
Through a fluid. Okay. What do we call those movements of the heat?
Convection currents.
Convection currents. Good. Ty, what's an example of convection? Give you a big old hint. Okay. Pot of boiling water. Okay. Does anybody have any other examples of convection? Zach?
Like a heater.
Of convection? Is that having to go through?
Oh,
Okay, so like a furnace in here or something, okay? Because it's producing convection currents. Let's see, what's the third type? Lane.
Conduction.
What is conduction?
It's like touch.
Okay, so the matter is moving or isn't moving? Is what? Is it? Okay, so it's when matter is not moving. Okay, and then which way is the heat flowing?
from warmer to warm.
From what? Okay, so it goes from the warmer object to the cooler object. Okay, and that's without movement.
Radiation convection, or it might be conduction. Heat transfers from hot things to cold things. I'm gonna kick off my shoes, lie in the sand, feel the sun beat down from my head to my pants. Yes, I'll tell you that's infrared. Oh, I'm lounging in the chair in the suntan tea, feeling the wind on forward rays. Heat through space is radiation. Oh, radiation, convection, and then there's conduction. Today we'll talk about ways of heating. I wanna get it into your head. Radiation, convection, or it might be conduction. Heat transfers from hot things to cold things. It's easy, that's all. From hot things to cold. Tonight I'm rolling up and maybe some eggs from a really nice man, but don't touch the edge. Burn myself and I'm screaming big. Oh my God, yeah. We're gonna transfer energy, and you didn't know this is what production you see. That's not all, you just have to wait. Oh, radiation, convection, and then there's conduction. Today we'll talk about ways of heating. I wanna get it into your head. Radiation, convection, or it might be conduction. Heat transfers from hot things to cold things. Oh, what happens to the heat in air? Rising up air is less dense. Goes up, 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 up. When heat transfers through fluids, it's what we call convection currents. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, today we'll talk about ways of heating.
I know you want to.
I wanna get into your head. Radiation, convection, or it might be conduction. Heat transfers from hot things to cold things. It's easy, that's all. From hot things to cold. From hot things to cold.
Go got your notes, we're gonna move into a couple of slides and finish up a little bit. The section, we're finishing section 6 2.
8. We have 8.
We have 8. I thought we had What?
Okay, we're gonna start talking about conductors and insulators. What is a conductor?
It's like,
Mac.
something that, like, can absorb you, kind of, or
Okay.
absorb.
Okay. Explain. Okay, so it helps energy flow, helps electricity flow, helps keep heat in, or it helps move heat around, I guess. What about an insulator? Somebody besides Lane and Mac. Ty, what's an insulator?
It's a thing that you put water through and electric fence.
Okay, say that again.
It's a thing where you hook it up to a post and then put water in.
Nope,
And
nope.
then an electric fence.
Yep, that was the example I used for the last class, actually. How many of you have electric fences around the farm or seen them? Okay, he's talking about the actual, what's that material? What's it made out of?
Plastic.
Okay, it's made out of plastic, and it hooks, it kind of allows for us to then touch it and like unhook an electric fence or to hook it together. Okay, and the wire runs through it. Okay, that's what he's talking about. That plastic is an insulator. Took my example. Okay. What else? Who can explain an insulator again? Okay, Elijah.
I have
Or do you have an example?
Yeah.
Okay.
A rubber glove.
Okay, a rubber glove. What about give me an example of a conductor.
Oh, like, the pan, it has, the pot, it has metal and then it conducts the heat, but the handle is an insulator because it's
What's it made out of usually?
like rubber, sometimes. or
Okay,
plastic.
rubber, plastic. Did everybody hear that? He's saying a pan, okay, a metal pan. Let's see. Zach, you got an example of one of them? Copper. Would it be an insulator or a conductor? Conductor. What about, okay, so an insulator, let's go back to insulator. So we figured out conductors help electricity and heat move and make it spread out better, okay, throughout something. So let's go back to the insulators. So what does an insulator actually do?
It like stops the current.
Okay, so it doesn't really stop it, but it helps keep it out, right? It helps, yeah, it eliminates flow of electricity or heat. So let's go ahead and see the real definitions then, okay? So a conductor is a material that conducts, okay, heat and electricity well. Okay, so like I said, it usually helps it flow better throughout an object. A lot of you named off metals. Okay, metals are very good conductors. Okay, and then an insulator, it does not conduct heat very well. Okay, so in some examples, air, wood, paper, cork, we mentioned plastic, mentioned rubber. What would be, what was that? Wood. Yep, wood is an insulator. What type of insulation do we have as humans?
Skin.
Think below the skin. What's under the skin?
Fat.
Say it, Reese. Say it again.
I said it.
I know, say it again.
Fat.
Fat. Okay, we have fat molecules and fat cells that help keep our heat in. Okay, animals like whales or dolphins or walruses, what type of insulation do they have? Blubber. Okay, so there's a lot of different things can be an insulator or a conductor. What do you think is the best insulator? Best type of insulator?
Rubber.
Nope. Okay, let's think about this. Okay, have you guys seen, okay, so we'll use that example with the windows. When you have, it's what's called double pane windows. Okay, so why are those so good to put in houses?
Because there's air in between.
Okay, so air is what? An air is
Oh, there's
an insulator.
so like.
Okay, so so air is one of the better insulators that we can have. Let's see, those cups. Have you guys ever seen those like water cups or they have like two, they're called double walled tumblers, or I guess, and they usually have the straws in it and you can drink out of them. Okay, that's the same kind of concept. Okay, to help keep your drinks cold, there's air between those two layers. Help keep that, keep the heat out. Okay, so now we have specific heat. Okay, and specific heat is the amount of energy that's required to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of a substance by 1 Kelvin. Okay, that is what a substance specific heat is. So water, in order to raise 1 kilogram of water, 1 degree Kelvin, or 1 Kelvin, it requires 4,180 joules of energy. Okay, so if we're wanting to find the specific heat of sand. Okay, if we took 1 kilogram of sand and wanted to find its specific heat, do you think its specific heat would be higher or lower than water's? So we have, I'll raise my hand, I think we're done with that. So if we have, this is my sand, okay, this is 1 kilogram of sand. And then we have, this is the water. This is 1 kilogram of water. This one requires 4,180 joules to get to 1 Kelvin. Okay, do you think that sand is going to require more or less energy to heat to 1 Kelvin? Okay, here, let's think about this. Okay, it's a hot sunny day. You're at a lake or even at a pool or on a beach. Okay, the sand. What happens when you step on hot sand? It burns pretty bad, right? And you usually try to get off that if you're barefoot. Okay, it burns. But if you have a puddle of water right over here, and what do you usually do if you step in something hot? You want to step in the water, something that's cooler. So that water right here isn't as warm as that sand. Okay, so do you think the specific heat of sand is more or less than the specific heat of water? Less. Okay, it doesn't take as much energy to get that sand warmed up. Okay, and it takes more to get that water warmed up. What about the specific heat of copper? Do you think the specific heat of copper would be more or less than the specific heat of water? Less, a lot less. Okay, there's actually a chart on page, what page was that?
176.
176, turn to 176. Okay, down on the bottom left corner, there are different substances. Okay, and it gives the specific heat. So you can see that water is the 4,180. Sand is only 670. And then if you go to copper, that's only 385.
The lesson that I chose to do for the classroom management was in my 7th grade science class, and how I planned for any anticipated behavior issues is I kind of outlined what I would do if something would happen, and I decided that I would need to deal with the disruption while still keeping the rest of the class occupied, so not to just focus on the disruptive students and leaving the other students left by themselves so that they could pretty much cause any other behavior issue to happen. So what I decided is that walk over and make my presence by the student that is being disruptive. Sometimes that's all it takes is the presence of the teacher right by them, because then they know that they are either caught or they're going to be getting in trouble if they don't stop. For those that don't usually catch that hint and continue to be disruptive, I would simply tell the class, like in this lesson for instance, tell them to continue, writing down their notes, and then I'd give them a little extra something to do, just kind of off the top of my head, just to keep them occupied while I go address the other student. So like with this lesson, I would tell them to keep writing down the notes and then give me 5 examples of then list 5 examples of conductors and 5 examples of insulators on their piece of paper. And so then that would buy me a little bit of time so I could go over by the disruptive students and talk to them quietly and, tell them that their behavior is disrespectful and it's disrupting the rest of the students, and that's their warning, and if they continue then there's going to be a detention, and if that doesn't get them to stop, then if they don't care if they get a detention, then move on to the next step. That okay, then we might be going to visit with the principal if the behavior doesn't stop. Hopefully it would never get to that point, but I know it does. I just haven't had any incidences like that yet. So that would be my plan if something, and that's how what I plan for if any behavior did arise. Luckily I haven't had any major behavior issues, just simple ones like everyone talking at once or chit-chatting in general. So asking for hands to be raised or separating the talkers has stopped that for the most part. I try to make a conscious effort to ask the students to raise their hand whenever we're doing question and answer sessions, or whenever I do ask a question. The students that I actually have in those rooms in the 7th grade are pretty well trained already by other teachers to raise their hand and to only talk at once. So I got pretty lucky with that. But I noticed that most of the time that everybody talks at once whenever I don't directly say raise your hand at the beginning. So I need to start doing that at the beginning of each class, or whenever we start doing question and answer sessions. I noticed I didn't do it during that lesson, and so that kind of caused me to have the say that again moments, or the only one at a time moments, because they'll start all answering at once. As far as taking care of the chatty Cathys in the room, just simply taking them and separating them. Usually they're right next to each other in the classroom, and that's where they're talking. So just putting one on one side of the room, just separating the two. It's like then they know they're in trouble, and they usually be quiet after that because everybody else in the room knows that they're in trouble. I've also found, and I need to try to do this better, is to randomly call on students instead of just having them blurt out answers too. It's another alternative to the hand raising. So I need to try to do that better. I didn't do it quite as much this past lesson as I do in some other ones, but it's something I need to work on.